Levack, the NFL came out with a Deflategate rules in regards to the PSI of footballs. The NFL now has specific rules on how that operation works and how they will keep an eye on the PSI. And joining us now live is ESPN's Adam Schefter. Thanks to Death Wish Coffee. Shefty, how we doing?
Armen, Levack, how you guys doing, all right?
Hey, man, good.
It's all good, baby. You enjoying your summer?
Yeah, I guess so. It's been an interesting summer.
You know what?
Fine.
It's been
Everybody seems to stop.
Yeah, it's been very interesting like this. The NFL now has intense rules about PSI in football. Shefty, does this not make them look even more guilty for suspending Tom Brady for 4 games and then coming up with these rules? It makes it look like they didn't have their scene under control, but yet suspended Tom Brady.
Well, I think it's a matter of your interpretation, but I think that it's certainly fair to wonder if these rules have been in place and Tom Brady violated them and they suspend them the way they did, then there's no issue. But I think if Tom Brady's going to go ahead and appeal this, if they can't reach a settlement, and I don't think they can, then I think that's what he's going to appeal, is the process by which he was suspended. None of these rules were in place. He wasn't warned about this. There weren't procedures in place. There weren't protocols for testing. There were not policies that were laid out. So it's a situation here where basically they had a situation where the league is now adjusting to rules that were not in place last year. That's it. They're putting rules into place just like they did on the personal conduct policy, just like they did after all that last year. And so that's the situation.
This strengthens Brady's case, though. If they end up going to court, this just makes it a little easier for him to get out of this, right?
I don't think the league would announce it if it made it easier for Tom Brady to get out of it. So I'm sure that the league went over this with its attorneys. So I don't know that this is going to have any bearing on his particular court case. But again, I think the league had to do this to get everything set for the upcoming season.
Is there a strategy here, Adam Schefter with Armen and Levack, thanks to Death Wish Coffee? Shefty, is there a strategy that the NFL has by continuing to hold back the results of Tom Brady's appeal?
Well, I think a lot of people are wondering because, again, it's now been 34 days since his appeal, 34. And on July 3rd, which was 24 days ago, final briefs were due. They had to be limited to 20 pages. So Roger Goodell essentially handed down the decision, was familiar with the decision, sat in on the appeal, heard the appeal, got the briefs, has had a chance, you would think, over 24 days to review the briefs. Yeah. This is a case where you want to sit down with your attorneys and you want to make sure that the conclusion that you come up with upon appeal holds up in the court of law should the case go there, which it would unless it was overturned. So that's what I think is going on right now. He's trying to make sure with his attorneys that everything is foolproof before they turn it in and make an announcement. But I would think also that we have to be getting something fairly soon, whether that means later this week or next week, because the Patriots go to camp on the 29th, Wednesday. And if you remember last year, the NFL announced the Ray Rice suspension on the first day of the Ravens' practice. So we'll see how this all shakes out this week.
Are we still as confident that this thing's going to go to federal court?
I think that's certainly a likely possibility, because do you think that Roger Goodell is going to overturn the suspension part of this and say Tom Brady is not going to miss any games? I don't think most people expect that. And if that's the case, then this is going to go to federal court.
Got it.
Or unless they settle it, which I don't think that's likely either. But
right.
Again, you just don't know how those talks go, and everyone's being very tight-lipped about those talks, and maybe they could get it done. But I don't think so.
I just can't believe how much a couple pounds of air pressure is dominating the NFL news cycle.
Well, it's gone on since January. It's kind of crazy. So it's really a little bit out of proportion to what it should be.
One of the wackiest things you've covered since covering the NFL, right?
Well, I'll say this, that every year there's something that's wacky. I mean, you got Bullygate in Miami.
Yeah,
that was wacky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got Deflategate, Bountygate. That was wacky in its own way. The domestic violence thing was something that I think society needed to take a long, hard look at to improve upon. That's not wacky, that's serious, but that was certainly a situation that extends way above football. Again, I just think that you look every year, there seems to be something. There was Spygate one year, that was wacky, right? It just, the sport, because of the interest in it, produces tremendous interest over topics you'd never imagine And certain things in this day and age, with social media running rampant, manage to take on a life of their own.
Schefter, you bring up the Ray Rice thing as one of the stories that kind of went beyond football. Now Greg Schiano, his former college coach, is out on his side trying to get teams to give him a second chance. I mean, is it really about the domestic violence anymore, or is it just the fact that he doesn't have the skill level for a team to put up with the scrutiny?
Well, I think that it's a little bit of both right now, and he's not been able to overcome the both of them together. I think there have been teams that have considered him and backed away because of the video, and I think there have been teams that have considered him that have backed away because of questions about what he could do on the football field. Now, keep in mind that in his last season playing in the NFL, 2013, he averaged 3.1 yards per carry, but he also played that year with a hip injury that required a procedure after the year, played behind a substandard offensive line that didn't do a great job run blocking. And then last year, there were people who thought he was basically ready to have a Pro Bowl type season before his incident became a national controversy. So he never really got the chance last year, and now people are debating whether or not he could help them in the backfield, and I think that it's a little bit of everything as to why teams have been scared off, but so far nobody has been willing to give him the chance so far.
You think he will, or it'll take a training camp injury maybe?
Right now, I would guess it would take a training camp injury, but again, he has had conversations with teams, but just for a multitude of reasons, they have not decided to go the direction that he had hoped. He wants to get a chance, and I spoke to this men's group this week in a call to men, and they've worked with him since November, and they've watched him at Rutgers, they've watched him at his high school, they've watched him with a lot of youths. I think the great part here would be that if you could take what was such a negative incident and turn it into a positive, where good comes out of it, where he teaches so many people and has an influence and raises awareness of the issue to where what happens over time becomes a positive because of the impact it has on others, that's a good thing. And I think that the Call to Men group, the co-founders that I spoke with this weekend, Ted Bunch and Terry Porter, they believe that that's really the case with him. They believe that he's somebody who's determined to show that when his daughter Raven, who I believe is 3 years old, when she gets older, Ray Rice wants her to see that her father's life was not defined by one night that everybody remembers very well, all too well, that there was more to his life and he did a lot of good after the one night of bad.
ESPN's Adam Schefter thinks of Death Wish Coffee every Monday live at 4:45. The best of Schefter at 6:30. And Schefter, congratulations, you called it. The Giants did sign O.C. Umenyor, or it's going to happen. Of course, he's retiring as a Giant. He's not going to play. Are we surprised that he's stopping? That he's no longer going to play at the age of 33?
He was in ESPN a couple of weeks ago, and we had the chance to talk. And he certainly, whenever you see a guy coming through ESPN and going on area, that's the first sign that the end is near. Whether that means they've got another year or two left, that's uncertain, but you know that the end is near. And he certainly sounded open at that point when we spoke to coming back to playing. I thought that he might get another chance, but again, he was not overly productive in Atlanta at the tail end of his career, and probably when you've made some money like he has and you've won Super Bowls like he has, sometimes it's tough at that time to know that you're going to be putting your body through the physical rigors that these guys put themselves through. And ultimately, then he decided, it looks that way, that he's not going to go that route, that he'd rather walk away from the game and retire as a New York Giant.
Schefter, speaking of the Giants, Victor Cruz, there's reports out that he could be ready for football activities in camp. How far along is he? What are you hearing?
The signs have been encouraging. I think they want to be very careful with him, bring him back. They don't want to rush him. And they still want to see how he performs during the summer. But again, he has felt that he's been ahead of schedule, which is good because I think Giant fans want to see Victor Cruz and Odell Beckham Jr. and Ruben Randle all out there on the field at the same time, seeing what this offense could be like. Because really, Victor Cruz goes down earlier. They didn't have him and Odell Beckham Jr. performing at a high level at the same time last year. If you can get that going this year, then that makes the running game and the passing game out of the running game with Shane Vereen even more dangerous. And it's a situation where, again, the signs on Victor Cruz so far have been very encouraging.
ESPN's Adam Schefter thanks of Death Wish Coffee. Schefter, how concerned are the Bills about LeSean McCoy's private event celebration, quote-unquote?
Well, I can't imagine they're pleased about that, but it's the kind of thing where you've got to exercise better judgment. You've got to be smarter. Everyone's got to be smarter like that about what they do with parties and public invitations. Yeah, it's the day and age that we live in, and he made a decision that opened himself up to some criticism, and he did what he could to address it and kept it going. And I can't think the Bills are particularly happy. It's not like he violated a law or did something illegal, but not the best use of judgment that they're hoping that he improves upon.
So, Adam, as we were sitting here today, we were looking through the Jets headlines. We're like, wow, it's all football news. And then we looked over to Buffalo, and there's LeSean McCoy and jumping out of airplanes and all that. Is this the Rex effect, and is this what Buffalo was hoping for?
Well, I don't think that Buffalo wants a Rex effect like that. I mean, they love that Rex has brought the spotlight to Buffalo, but they want to be about good winning football, tough football. And it just so happens that, we're talking about this LeSean McCoy. It's one story. And they'll get busy with drills here, and we'll be back to talking about the Buffalo Bills quarterback competition here soon enough, I can assure you that. But for the time being, until they're in camp, until those veterans are going through drills, this suffices as a storyline for Buffalo. And there'll always be a spotlight focusing on that team with Rex Ryan there. It's just the way that it is. But it's a case where I think that they prefer the headlines be about something else right now.
So Sammy Watkins saying there's no way that we shouldn't be in the playoffs. You think he does that last year, or is that a Rex effect that Rex Ryan there, allows you and gives you the freedom to talk big?
It's not. I don't know. It's the freedom so much as the confidence. Like, he's got that belief. He talks to his teams about those beliefs, and he doesn't care that they talk to the press about those beliefs. So it's great you could do it. You got to back it up also. But Rex makes it no secret that he's very confident in his abilities, his team's abilities always. He lets his players know what he thinks of them, and he expects them to be a really good team. And again, what he says to them then filters out to the press, which the press likes, which gets us talking, which completes this whole cycle that has a lot more attention focusing on the Buffalo Bills than there ordinarily might be at this time of the year.
All right, Schefter, it feels like Christmas Eve. Camps are opening this week. What's the biggest storyline you're watching?
Well, I think everybody's just waiting on Deflategate. I mean, that's just a story that just doesn't go away. Waiting to see what Roger Goodell rules on, because it impacts arguably the best player in the game, one of the greatest quarterbacks, one of the greatest players of all time, a defending Super Bowl champion, and whether we'll have its quarterback on opening night, whether it'll be without him, his legacy. I mean, there's so many implications to this story and tentacles, and again, we're just waiting for something that seems to just keeps dragging on and on and on.
ESPN's Adam Schefter, thanks to Death Wish Coffee, joins us every Monday at 4:45. Schefter, appreciate you, man. Hopefully
Guys,
we can...
have a great week. We'll do it again next Monday when every team at this point next week will be in training camp.
Oh, thank you, Adam Schefter. That's all you. That's what that is. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, do it next week.